Hello, everyone. My name is Whitney McFarland, and this is my discussion board number 4 presentation for youth violence. Um, I came up with my hypothesis on youth violence as far as violent environments and non-violent environments. I feel like children and young adolescents who grow up in violent environments are most likely to grow to be violent adults, whereas children who grow up in the opposite environment, which is a non-violent environment, are more likely to grow up as non-violent adults. As you can see, my violent environment picture shows a child, and it could be a mom and a dad in the background having verbal arguments or at some point get physical. In the non-violent environment where you see the kids playing and they're happy and they're jumping around. So youth violence affects communities by increasing the cost of healthcare. I don't know if anybody knew this, but I didn't. And I actually researching a lot of stuff. I did learn a lot about youth violence. It also reduce productivity, decreasing property values, and disrupting social services. Youth homicides and assault related injuries result in an estimate 18.6 billion in combined medical and work loss costs. That is a lot. I didn't know that either. Um, it's different types of youth violence, anything from mental illness to in-home physical violence between parents or just anyone in the family. You have child abuse, you have bullying, which is very, very common. Children who experience heavy exposure to both physical abuse and domestic violence poses more behavioral problems than those who experience only one or the other. For my research techniques, I think researching online because the internet is very, very informative as far as information. And I think interviewing an individual who grew up in a violent or non-violent environment will also give you a lot of answers to what you're looking for. So for my research choice, I chose the Coverent Participant Observation on Youth Violence. Um, excuse me. I have a friend that I grew up with, and her name is actually not Kayla, but to kind of disguise it. I grew up with her, and she grew up in a very strict household. Like, her father was very, very, very mean. He was very strict, but he also was one of those fathers that abused them as children and fought with her mom all the time, which is kind of scary because I didn't even want to go around. She still wanted me to come to her house and visit, and I used to be like, no, I want to come because he's scaring you, but he scares me too. And just growing up, I just knew of her always being scared, and she used to call me and try to sneak on the phone just to keep her calm when her mom and her dad is in the other room fighting for whatever reason. And just growing up, like, we went to high school together, we went to middle school together, and up into high school, like middle school, she was like a normal child, but then start going towards like high school, she became a bully, and she was just mean. But um she was always in fights. She stayed in fights. She would fight teachers. She was fighting students, from girls to boys. So it didn't matter who she fought. She didn't care who she fought. She was just a very violent teenager. And her first result would be to like fight. It was never to just talk it out or get understand. It was like she didn't understand. It was just like fighting was her first mindset. And about 2 years ago, she actually made the news for attempted murder of her boyfriend, which in that relationship, that was a pretty violent relationship. But for myself, I grew up in the total opposite situation. My mom and dad were also strict, but they weren't physically fighting or any of that, verbal, none of that. I didn't grow up around any of that. So I grew up the total opposite of her. And that was really like my observation part to try to compare it as far as what it can do. And I think that I grew up to be a pretty humble young woman. And I think that a lot of the stuff that my mom, my dad installed in me, I will install in my own daughter. In doing this research, I know that a lot of things that you do in the environment that your children grow up in does make a difference in what kind of adults they grow to be. Um, so in the use of my research, I feel can help a child who's living in these types of environments. Offer support groups for children and parents. Try to conduct surveys, offer free anger management, because I did read that a lot of children, even growing up around angry people, can result in angry adults who result to violence. Counseling groups, ask children, their opinion, because kids have voices too. A lot of them can tell you stuff that you would be like, wow, that's a good idea. So I really do think that that would help as far as the research and what to do for children who's going through these things. So that concludes my presentation, and I thank you all for watching.